Joining us now to discuss the changes is Housing and Urban Development Secretary Shaun Donovan from Washington. Shaun, good to see you. Welcome to Street Smart. So,
great to be with you.
Tell us the critical difference between HARP and what some people are calling HARP 2.0.
Well, first of all, because of market barriers, before, folks whose homes were more than 25% underwater couldn't qualify at all. One of the biggest changes we announced today is that everyone would be eligible no matter what level of negative equity they have in their home. So that's a big step forward. There are 4 other key barriers that have been operationally too complex that have stood in the way of lots of homeowners being able to refinance. Things like the cost of the fees, the risk-based fees, and other things. There's also been difficulties in subordinating second mortgages and a host of other things that have stood in the way. We've taken those barriers one by one, sat down at the table with the private sector, with federal regulators, and been able to attack every single one of them. So this is a major change and should significantly streamline the program going forward.
How will this work from a bank's perspective at this point? Obviously, they're a critical component in actually approving a refinancing.
Well, it will dramatically ease the process it takes to get somebody a refinancing. For example, we'll no longer require, in the vast majority of cases, a full appraisal to be done because we have automated valuation methods that can accurately show the value of the home without going through a full appraisal. It's steps like that. Another one would be being able to automatically move the mortgage insurance policy from the old loan to the new loan. Again, an operational complexity that has stood in the way of lots of people being able to refinance. So it's things like that that are going to make a big difference. And you know, one of the things that I would point out is the potential here with the changes that we're talking about today for HARP is that they could also streamline refinancing for other borrowers who do have equity in their homes. You talked about the fact that we have a large number of homeowners who do have equity and yet haven't refinanced. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have 6 to 7 million borrowers in that category. And if we can cut the cost of refinancing in half, if we can make sure that second liens, which have been a big problem on refinancing, can be automatically transferred and resubordinated to the new loans, those are important steps, not just for the targeted category for HARP, but potentially for a broader set of borrowers as well. So this could be a very important step forward for them as well.
Now, Shaun, I think admittedly from the administration's perspective, HARP, the first version of it, wasn't particularly successful. I guess less or fewer than 1 million homeowners actually refinanced under that program, and just 72,000 of that particular number actually were underwater on their mortgages. What sort of numbers in terms of refinancing do you expect out of this revised version of HARP?
Well, just to be clear, all of the borrowers that were under HARP, the close to 1 million that you talked about, were underwater. It was 72,000 that were deeply underwater. And the announcement today that we're lifting the cap on HARP to go above 125% loan to value should be a major step forward in terms of helping deeply underwater borrowers. But let's be clear, there are about 4 million homeowners that have Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac mortgages that are underwater and could benefit substantially from a refinance. And let's be clear what this means. The average borrower will save $2,500 a year or more on their mortgage. So that's like a major tax cut for these families. Of those 4 million that we think are eligible, we're going to have to see how many of them actually want to come in and refinance, how many step up, and frankly, we're going to have to see that the private sector delivers on the changes that they've promised. So it's not clear yet exactly how many of those 4 million will ultimately come in and refinance, but it's a substantial opportunity, particularly when you compare it to the 1 million families that have been able to refinance so far.
All right, Shaun, we got to leave it there. I do look forward, though, to more updates on the program. Obviously, a lot of ifs in there, but good to have you. That was Secretary Donovan joining us today to talk about the latest program coming from the administration on fixing the housing mess. We'll come in